my dears.
What the hell is wrong with you?
What the hell is wrong with you?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a post-Christmas edition of Ryno's Rants, coming to you tonight from temporary accommodations as we are in the midst of a really heavy ice storm up here in the Fargo area. Made the trek into town to go to work today. It took me for about 45 minutes longer than it normally does. And also with the ice building up 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch thick on power lines, trees, all that stuff, we didn't have any internet back at home. So we have hotel accommodations for the evening, so I didn't have to drive all the way home and then back again in the morning. But good evening, GMAT. Good evening, Ant, Robert, Stephen, all you guys in the comment section. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Yeah, so Christmas Eve, US Bank Stadium, Santa Claus made an appearance and came down the collective chimney of Vikings fans everywhere and took a 2 a.m. Taco Bell dump in everybody's stockings. As not only did the Vikings lose the game, we also lost two significant contributors who have played the entire year and played very well. TJ Hawkinson announced on Tuesday here that he had indeed tore an ACL and an MCL with that helmet hit to the knee he took in the during the game there, with that injury calling into question whether or not he will be ready to start the 2024 season. I did see something today that it's basically the exact same injury and the exact same time that Adrian Peterson did his back in 2011. So if Hawkinson can heal as fast as Peterson, we may have something there. And I don't think there was an intent to hurt there. I think it just that's just the way the play went. It happens. I don't think it was a deliberate hit. I don't. Sick to watch it. Hawk, no way to replace him. No, there really isn't. He was 40 yards away from passing Joe Sensor on the Vikings all-time receiving yardage for a season. So yeah, and just ended up just being shy of 1,000 yards. So it's a bad deal for Hawkinson, bad deal for the team. Hopefully he can recover quickly and be ready to go by opening day next year. But we'll wait and see. The other major injury was edge rusher DJ Wanham tore a quadricep and putting him out for the rest of the season. So, it just battled the injuries this year. It's just been terrible. And I don't know, we've gotten so much bad luck this year with injuries. You look at the guys we've lost for parts or all of the season: Kirk Cousins, Justin Jefferson, Darrisaw was out for a little bit. Brian O'Neill's been out for multiple weeks now. Jordan Hicks out for multiple weeks. Marcus Davenport, we barely knew he was on the team. He's been out the entire time. Good evening, Doc. Good evening, Skull Purple Pride. Now that the Hawkinson injury, it just keeps piling on and piling on. One little bit better, news is that Jordan Addison, the injury that he ended up getting taken out of the game for, is an ankle sprain. They're saying day to day. Possible he plays on Sunday against Green Bay, but I wouldn't count on it. But would be back probably be back next week for Detroit, hopefully. Yeah, then might as well get to the A topic. once again, a game the Minnesota Vikings should have won. A decent throw on that last play, and Jefferson has that for a touchdown, and the Vikings are winning the game. But instead, Nick Mullens throws probably one of the worst wounded duck passes I have seen in a long time. I mean, I don't know what he was doing there. I can throw a better spiral than that one is that Mullens threw there. It just was awful. Well, all 4 of his interceptions, and that was the infuriating part about Nick Mullens' performance. The guy threw for 411 yards and 2 touchdowns. Looked great on some of those throws. I mean, spreading the ball all over the field. Justin Jefferson was on prime form. I mean, that 3rd and 27 catch that Justin Jefferson had, I would argue, is almost as impressive as that catch he had against Buffalo last year. I mean, it was a hell of a catch. But Mullens was throwing stuff like that, and then the next second he turns around, he throws things that are absolutely god-awful, just brain-dead throws. I don't know what's going through his head at that point in time. It just, fuck it, somebody's up there and chuck it. But, I mean, that thing went like this. It's good evening, Dave. Good evening, Marie. Good evening, Josh. All you guys. Poor man's Brett Favre. No, he's not even a poor man's Brett Favre, because at least Brett Favre could usually recover from those kind of throws. Mullens has cost us 2 games. Good reason these guys are backups. Absolutely, GMAC. It's I don't know what to say about it. I mean, we probably should have expecting some. Hey, good evening, Chuck. Good evening, Ray. Probably should have been expecting this kind of stuff once Kirk went down. I mean, these guys that are backup quarterbacks are backups for a reason. But, we got a little bit of false hope with the 2 weeks that Josh Dobbs was in there. And then the Pastronaut reminded us why he'd been on 3 teams so far this year and 7 teams over his career. So on to Nick Mullens. And like I said, Mullens is fully capable of running this offense very effectively, and we've seen that. But then he has those complete and total brain fart moments where he just makes a stupid pass that Stevie Wonder could read the coverage better than he's running. I mean, the one where Jordan Addison got hurt. I mean, if he hits Jordan Addison in stride, that's a touchdown. Instead, Jordan Addison, he underthrows him by 3-4 yards, and the defender cuts the route and takes it back the other way. We'll get to this one here. Steven, need to start Hall, nothing to lose now. I don't think we need to lose. I don't think we need to start Hall. I really don't. I mean, it's possible that they're going to this week. Kevin O'Connell was out today saying that, they're going over their options and everything's on the table as far as the quarterback goes for this coming week. But I've seen this a lot on social media all over the place. We need to see what we have in Jaron Hall. No, we really don't. We have Jaron Hall under contract for 3 more years after this. Jaron Hall was not drafted to be the quarterback of the future of this team. Jaron Hall was drafted to be a backup quarterback. He's a 5th-round project. The intent and the hope when they drafted Jaron Hall was that he could develop into a good, serviceable backup quarterback. And if you got more than that out of him, fantastic. But the expectations were not there for Jaron Hall to be the savior, to be the quarterback of the future, to be that guy that's going to lead the Minnesota Vikings for the next 10 years. He's a project. And this is my biggest fear of starting Jaron Hall over the next 2 games is that, and I'm not cheering for the Vikings to tank. I will not do that. I want them to win. If they lose the last couple of games, it is what it is at this point. But my fear, if they started Jaron Hall the next 2 games and Jaron Hall played well and we win, maybe get in and win a wild card game maybe. My fear is that there's going to be definitely people within the fan base, potentially people in the organization that would look at 2 games worth of Jaron Hall being relatively successful and saying, we've got our quarterback for the future. We don't need to take a quarterback early next year. And that would be the biggest mistake that we could make. Because this is jaded Viking fan talking right here, as we have seen too many times, and we all know what would happen, we would go into 2024 thinking Jaron Hall could be the long-term answer, skip out on taking a Jaden Daniels, a Drake May, Michael Penix, JJ McCarthy, pick your quarterback in the first round right now that you like. And then Jaron Hall comes out next year and looks god-awful and doesn't pan out to be squat. And we gave up the opportunity to get a true quarterback of the future because we thought a 5th-round draft pick could be something. If we want to tank, keep going with Mullens. There's some truth to that, Dan, and kind of part of the reason why I think they maybe do stick with him because, and I've kind of had this in the back of my mind the entire time since Kirk went down, especially after that Denver game when Dobbs looked awful and pretty much cost us the game, is that, and after that Las Vegas game, they had to make a switch because you couldn't trot Dobbs out there again the way he was playing. Now, Mullens, to his credit, he's thrown for 700 yards in two games. But, this maybe is the way that maybe Kwesi and KOC are talking in the back room saying, we know we're not going anywhere this year without Kirk and all this other stuff, the shit that's gone wrong. Let's put up the impression that we are still actively trying to win games. If we win them, great. If we lose games, helps us out in the draft. Just kind of a hot take conspiracy theory thing that it's been bouncing around in my head here for a little bit, but like to think Kwesi and KOC are smarter than I am. Kind of doubt they draft a quarterback in the first round, honestly. I'm going to disagree with you on that one, GMAC, because, if you have the opportunity to get one of these guys, you take that opportunity. I don't care. And, the odds have increased, I think, significantly that Kirk Cousins probably comes back on a 1 to 2 year deal next year. But even if you have Kirk here next year, if you have the opportunity to get one of these guys, a Jaden Daniels, a Drake May, I'm starting to come off. I'm not really on the Caleb Williams bus anymore. I've seen enough from that guy this last part of the collegiate football season that there's a lot of red flags and questions that need to be answered before I would be comfortable taking him. But, want all that, but we know how everybody loves Kirk. True, GMAC, but he's going to be 36 years old before we start the 2024 season, whether he's on the team or whether he's not. Cousins probably plays 2 to 3 more years in this league. And I would, Kirk has made the comment that he would like to retire a Viking. Okay, a 2-year deal, retires at 38. Having one of these first-round quarterbacks sit for 2 years behind Kirk Cousins is not the worst thing in the world. He can learn from a very smart quarterback. And, they don't have to be forced into duty right off the get-go and, the trial by fire thing. He could sit for at least year 1 and, then maybe take over the reins in 2025. We'll see at that point. But Have to get a quarterback. No excuses to not get one. Yeah, I agree. We'll know prior to the draft. They have to extend Kirk prior to his contract ending, which is in March. So yes, by late February, I would say we would have some clarity as to the Kirk Cousins situation. I think there is a desire for him to come back. I think on both sides. So, I think it's a ever increasing possibility that happens as long as they can come to numbers, because we still have to extend Justin Jefferson. We have to look at trying to keep Danielle Hunter around. There's a lot of moving parts here, but first 2 rounds have to take a quarterback. Kirk mentors him. I agree. I think it needs to be a first-round quarterback, because unless you think somebody like a Michael Penix or a Bo Nix or somebody like that's going to fall to the second round, that you can get there. I don't want to miss out on a quarterback in round 1 just to think, oh, we can get one of these guys in round 2, and then they end up all getting drafted before, we get to that point. I don't want to play with fire. If they like Drake May, if they like Jaden Daniels, you move up and you get him. I don't care what you got to do. You move up and you get him. It's going to cost draft picks, but you do what you need to do to get this team its franchise quarterback of the future. Yep, absolutely. Ant Williams was Addison's quarterback last year. Yeah, at the beginning of the season, I was all in on the Caleb Williams wagon, but just seeing a lot of the stuff that he did, his immaturity in a lot of aspects, his kind of falling apart when things didn't really go his way, playing from within the pocket, he seemed to struggle more at it this year. And as we've seen, with this whole backup quarterback conundrum that we've got going on, O'Connell wants a guy who's going to play out of the pocket first, which is why we had Nick Mullens here before, because Nick Mullens can run the offense as effectively as Kirk Cousins can. I mean, he's shown that the last couple weeks, other than the fact that he has those stupid brain fart throws every once in a while that end up in interceptions. But what else we got for comments here? You can hear it all. Kirk's Cole's cash when he retires. Will Kirk's Achilles be the same as mobility? I mean, that's one thing with Kirk Cousins. He wasn't overly mobile to begin with, so I don't know that that's going to be a major sticking point. I mean, at a 36-year-old quarterback that's coming off an Achilles injury, there is going to be some concerns on that, and I think that bodes more into the Vikings' favor as being able to get Kirk at a little bit of a discount. You might get him for $30 million a year. If Kirk had gone through this entire season, played like he was playing up until the time he got hurt, you were looking at having to pay $40 to $45 million a year for Kirk for a 3-year deal or whatever it ended up being. The Bears can be had. I think we get 1 pick. I know Kwesi has shown that he can trade. He's not opposed to trading within the division. I don't know that the Bears would want to trade with Minnesota, knowing that Minnesota was going up to get a quarterback. I would say the more likely options for trading up would be with the Arizona Cardinals or the New England Patriots, probably, maybe the Commanders, depending upon how those first couple of picks go. I think if you could get 3 or 4, you get Jaden Daniels or Drake May, I think. Because I honestly am starting to think that Chicago doesn't take a quarterback at 1. I mean, Justin Fields has been playing better as of late, and I think he's finally starting to figure stuff out. So I can see them sticking with Fields and taking Marvin Harrison Jr. or, something like that, or possibly one of the offensive tackles. But we'll see. Meet a cynical Vikings fan. At least you can say as long as he ain't as bad as GMAC. Yeah. Kirk signs, then JJ knows who's throwing him the ball. Getting the first round, 5th-year option. Robert, that is another very big reason why you want to take quarterback in round 1, because you have that 5th-year control on that. Would love to trade up for May, but that's going to be a lot. He'll have a lot of suitors. Yeah, he's going to. But depending upon what happens these last 2 games, I mean, if we lose the next 2 games, there's a very strong possibility we're picking inside the top 10. And because we're right at, I think we're 15th right now, or 14th, something like that. But if we get inside that top 10, it's not going to cost near as much to move up to 2 or 3 to get that position than it would, if we're picking 18 to 20. So we'll see. Happy holidays. Happy holidays to you too, Brian. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. All of that good stuff. Quinn Ewers. Yeah, Ewers is going back to Texas. I'm pretty sure that's official. He's not coming out this year, I don't believe. Yeah, Jer, same thing. Don't know if we'd re-sign Hunter, because if he's a superstar, he should have showed up. I mean, Danielle Hunter has done everything. I've never had a problem with Danielle Hunter. I mean, the guy's got 15.5 sacks or whatever it is this year. He's always had double-digit sacks pretty much in every year that he's played a full season. So I don't think there is a question about Danielle Hunter not showing up. I mean, even last year when Donatel had him dropping into coverage half the time, he still had 10.5 sacks last year. So, I mean, I want Danielle Hunter back if we can fit it into the plan. I mean, Justin Jefferson's priority number 1 as far as re-signing free agents, I think, or extending people, but Danielle Hunter's probably number 2 on that list for me. Chuck, is Chandler ultimately a starter in this league? I think he can be. Played really well last week. We knew it was going to be tough sledding against Detroit. They were ranked in the top 5 or 3 or 4, I think it was, in run defense. So we knew there wasn't going to be a lot. And to be honest, we didn't even really try to run the ball. I think, what did Chandler have? 10 carries, something like that. Wasn't much. Ethan, good evening. Lots of first-round quarterback talent. See how it falls. Number 1 choice, Jaden Daniels, due to on and off the field. Number 2, J.J. McCarthy, who I don't think we'll have to trade up to get. I'm not completely sold on J.J. McCarthy. Got some friends who are Michigan followers in the college ranks, and they're expressing some concerns about him as well. I haven't watched enough of him to make a decision one way or the other. I think he may be a possibility because he kind of fits into the system that Kevin O'Connell likes to run. Is he the guy? I don't know. Like I said, I haven't started really breaking down a lot of quarterback stuff yet. I've been watching tape on Daniels and Drake May, Caleb Williams, and that kind of, and those first 3 guys. But I haven't started getting into too much with the guys in the middle around, the McCarthys, the Bo Nixes, the excuse me, the Michael Penix Juniors. I've seen Penix play a fair amount. I like his game. The injury concerns scare me, but strong quarterback. We could get quality dudes in the second. I don't want to wait until the second, Doc. Talking earlier about that 5th-year option. Drake May reminds you of Josh Allen. Drake May is much more careful with the ball than Josh Allen is. I think he probably plays a little bit like Josh Allen, but I don't think he's not near as apt to make those interceptions that Allen tends to like to throw. I watched quite a few Drake May games this year just because he was a guy I had my eye on early. He's got very good command in the pocket. He's a pocket passer first and foremost, which is what Kevin O'Connell likes. But he's also able to get out make plays with his feet if he needs to, but he's still looking to throw the ball. He's not a tuck it and run and take off hero ball kind of guy. I think he realistically probably has some Kirk Cousins comparables to him. He does. Honestly. Ant could be a better quarterback than Mullens, who wants to give him a shot. And yeah, I don't think we'll go that far. Good evening, Jeff. Can they use a franchise tag on Kirk? No, they cannot. He had the tag used on him twice when he was with Washington. Not able to do it on this one because there was a clause put in his deal that they couldn't tag him even if they wanted to. I think he got tagged the third time. You'd be paying upwards of $50 million for the year if you even wanted to do that. Chargers pick at the 6, Titans are 7. Trade him, get Daniels. I don't think Jaden Daniels is going to be available at 6 or 7. I think you got to go to 3 or 4 to get him, probably maybe 5. You got too many teams up there that would be looking at quarterbacks. You got the Commanders, you've got the Titans themselves, probably the Patriots, the Giants, maybe. Arch Manning may never get to play. Arch Manning is going to play. Don't worry. I'm not too worried about Arch Manning's future as a potential NFL quarterback. Hunter likely too expensive. I mean, he's going to be getting 20 mil plus a year, 20 to 25 mil. It's going to be what it is. Re-sign Hunter and want him. At the beginning of the year, I was fine with Wanham playing out his deal and then walking. The Flores system, Wanham has played well all year long. I mean, he's got 8 sacks. Last time he had 8 sacks, 5 of them were against the Bears, but this year it's spread out. He's developed into more of a complete edge rusher, I think. And I think the system has a lot to do with that. Need to be prepared for Jones and Wicks and Dillon if they are better. Yeah, I mean, we played against them all the first time, Marie. I'm not necessarily concerned about the defensive side of things. I'm worried about us turning the ball over. As we know, Joe Barry, your defensive coordinator, tends to have some issues over there. So, I'm not too concerned now. Again, in our cornerbacks, we are a little on the thin side. Of course, the Caleb Evans got pulled during the Detroit game because he was having a horrible game. Mekhi Blackman is dinged up. I don't know if he'll be able to play. So, by default, Evans is going to be back in this week, whether he's still on the coach's shit list or not. Penix doesn't have a great arm. No, it's not a howitzer by any means. It's sufficient. I think accuracy is more of a desire. Of course, O'Connell does like to throw the ball deep too, so there's there is that. Dave with the official update out of Texas, Ewers is likely to go back to Texas next year, but decision if he's has not been made yet, public yet. People here are hyped for Manning. Yeah, I've been seeing this stuff going across Twitter, and everybody has been doing we could have done this. A lot of it was because Vikings fans are still losing their mind over the fact that Kyle Hamilton is balling out for Baltimore. We could have had him, and we got Lewis Seen, who doesn't even see the field. So in 2018, we had already signed Kirk Cousins by the time the draft rolled around, so we did not need to draft a quarterback. And also, Mike Zimmer would have had no idea how to properly use Lamar Jackson had they drafted him in 2018. The first time Lamar Jackson would have tucked that ball and took off running, Mike Zimmer's other retina would have exploded. I mean, he would not have been a fit underneath what Zimmer wanted to do. Wish Manning would transfer to Uncle Peyton's alma mater. Yeah. Gophers quarterback won a bowl game throwing 26 yards. Yeah, the coach from Bowling Green made a comment to that point in his post-game press conference. I guess I didn't see it, but I saw it on Twitter here a little while ago. He actually told the media guys, that the Gophers couldn't throw the ball from him to the reporters, but yet they still won the game. So, been one rough season. Yep. I did read correctly. In 25, 26, we have almost $2 million in cap space. In 225 and 26, we got quite a bit, because by that time, that's where all this dead money stuff that we were saddled with by the previous regime comes off the books. Finally, your Adam Thielen stuff, Kirk, whether he's here or not, Harrison Smith will be off the books by then. A bunch of that dead money stuff will be gone. So that does open up the cap space. I'm not sure of the exact numbers, Jeff, but I know it's up in that area someplace. I'll leave that one as it is. I'm not going to go any deeper into that one. That's what she said. But so, I see all this all over the place, of course. Everybody's like, we need to tank. We need to do all this. Heard Lewis can't tackle. That's why he's not playing. I've heard something of that. I've heard a lot of it is taking poor angles and missing his reads in practice. There's, obviously, if he could play, he'd be on the field. And Flores would be, if he was showing up in practice, Flores would be pounding the table, and he's a first-round pick. He would have been out there. Now, of course, Josh Metellus and Cam Bynum have played phenomenally this entire year, in my opinion, in most people's opinion. Flores has gotten the most out of the guys that he's got out there. Josh Metellus has played all but 2 spots, I think, on the defense at some point in time this year. Nose tackle and I think left defensive end, or one of the 2 end spots and nose tackle are the only 2 spots that Josh Metellus has not lined up this year. Face it, to dig into the playoffs this year, how far we go. Probably not very far. Could we win a wild card game? Yeah, we could. We have shown this year, every damn game that we're in, that we've played, we have been in it to the end, and we had an opportunity to win every game that we've played this year. So anything's possible. You get into the game. I mean, it's tank with 2 games left, not much improvement. Actually, there is. I saw something today that depending upon how the other games fall with some of these other teams, it's not likely, but the Vikings could be picking as high as 5th or 6th if they lost out. But most likely you're going to be 7 to 12, somewhere in there. Okay, with sweeping the last 2 games and enjoying the weekend, absolutely, Doc. We're playing Green Bay this week. I cannot actively cheer for us to lose to Green Bay. I can't do it. I cannot do it. I will not do it. I want the Vikings to stomp a mud hole in Green Bay's ass and walk it dry every time we play them. Whether we're 14-2 or 2-14, I want to beat Green Bay every time we play them. So I'm not cheering for the Vikings to lose this week. If we do, we do. Probably more beneficial in the long term if we do lose, but I ain't cheering for us to lose against Green Bay. I'm not doing it. And you can't make me do it. I think if Kirk was playing winning the wild card was our max result, I'm going to disagree on that one, G-Mac. Just looking, how Kirk was starting in that Green Bay game before he got hurt, I think the corner was being turned. And if we had Kirk right now, I think we'd be battling for the 1 seed, because there's out of these last 6 games, that we've lost, every one of these ones that we've lost, it's the quarterback that's cost us those games. Josh Dobbs throwing interception after interception, Nick Mullens throwing interception after interception. And even with all those, we're still losing by within one score. Kirk would have been enough of a difference maker in there. Instead of sitting here at 7-8 right now, we would be, probably at worst 10-5. Purdy was ugly last night. Yeah, Brock Purdy last night was worse than Nick Mullens was. At least Nick Mullens threw for 400 yards. Brock Purdy threw for like 100 and something and 4 interceptions, and it was brutal. Absolutely brutal. Ruin the Cheeser's small chances on Sunday. Yeah, that's another very good point right there, Jer, is because Green Bay is still in the fight for a wild card spot just as much as we are. And it's so even if we don't make it, and looking at it this way, if we beat Green Bay this weekend, Detroit probably is not going to have much to play for that final week of the season, because I don't think they're going to be able to get to the depending upon what happens this week, I don't think they're going to be able to get to the number 1 seed. So they could be resting their starters. We could easily take that game in Detroit and get ourselves into the playoffs. Hope we stomp a mud hole in Green Bay, absolutely. But you're assuming everything else would be good too. We know that with one aspect goes up, the others tend to go down. Yeah. I mean, that was always the thing that the Kirk stands have been saying for years. Well, if Kirk had a defense and if Kirk had an offensive line, we'd really see what we could do. Well, this year we had a defense and this year we had an offensive line. And then Kirk goes and gets hurt and we still don't get to find out what would happen. So rooting for Miami in the playoffs. I wouldn't mind seeing Miami. I love me some Mike McDaniel. I think he's a very good coach. I think he's creative. I think he's got that no fucks given attitude a lot of times, running up 70 on Denver. He turned Tua Tagovailoa from 2-yard Tua into somebody who's at least in the conversation for an MVP candidate. Achane is good. They've got, Waddle and Hill. They've got a ton of weapons and everything down there, and they're a very good team. And, I think Baltimore showed last night that they're going to be very tough. I think they're probably the favorite out of the AFC right now, but Cleveland has a great defense, and Joe Flacco's come in there and looked as good, if not better, than Joe Flacco has ever looked. And so Cleveland's not out of this thing by any stretch of the imagination. Kansas City is looking like it's starting to implode, but you get them in the playoffs, they're still a very dangerous team. They can still make noise. Buffalo gets in. They're dangerous. Those AFC South teams, I'm not overly concerned with them, but on the NFC side, everybody was assuming that San Francisco was a class of the field. They weren't last night. The Eagles were the class of the field for a while. They came back and won yesterday, or on Sunday, but haven't looked great the last few weeks. Mike McDaniel wore the cool-out pants yesterday. A coach has the balls to wear those on the sidelines. Yep, don't give a shit attitude. Exactly, Chuck. That's another thing I like about him too, and he's a dork. He's weird, but he embraces the weirdness. And I like that. And he's a good offensive mind. I like what he's doing in Miami. But so yeah, as far as the Vikings go for this weekend, I mean, they definitely have an opportunity to win. I mean, Flores' defense confused the hell out of Jordan Love the first time around, and there's no reason why they can't do it again this time. I'm not sure where Green Bay's wide receiver core is. I think Christian Watson is still out, but you got Dobbs, you've got Wicks, you got a bunch of these other guys. Wouldn't mind McDaniel coaching the Vikings. He was on my short list before we hired Kevin O'Connell. I was actually kind of hoping McDaniel was my 1 and O'Connell was my 2. I think, if I remember correctly, the way I had him picked. But, I'm not giving up on O'Connell yet either. I mean, I thought O'Connell called a pretty good game against Detroit. Probably should have tried to run the ball a little bit more than we did. But, in the grand scheme of things, he had some great play calls out there. Justin Jefferson all over the field. Things were open. They were moving the ball well. It just Nick Mullens self-destructed us on 4 drives, 2 of which would have for sure been touchdowns, and we'd be singing a completely different tune going into playing Green Bay this week with still an opportunity to win the NFC North. Now we got to scrap and claw and hope we get a little bit of help just to get into the playoffs. So at this point, it kind of is what it is. Start Jaron Hall. We talked about that a little bit earlier, Ben. Stop with Madison, go with Chandler. Chandler got the start this week, against Detroit and played most of it. I think Madison had 2 or 3 carries was all he had. So I think that transition is happening. We'll see what happens next. Green Bay's not very good against the run, so I think we can probably make some hay there. I think Chandler is up for a good game this weekend. Madison's going to get his carries too, but I think Chandler's probably going to be the guy, at least for the next couple of weeks anyway. Jaron Hall, options are still on the table, like we said, but I think it's going to be Mullens this week. I could be completely wrong, but I think they roll Mullens back out there again this week just because he's proven he can move the offense. We've seen Jaron Hall for a series or 2 series. And 2 series are not enough to base a decision on versus what they've seen out of Jaron Hall the entire season in practice. If they think Jaron Hall gives them the best chance to win, Jaron Hall is going to start. If they don't think he's ready, it's going to be Mullens. Josh Dobbs, I think, is an afterthought. I mean, O'Connell threw his name in there, I think, just to be polite. I think it would be a huge mistake to roll Dobbs out there again, because both he and Mullens have shown that they can't hold on, keep turning the ball over. But at least on Mullens' side of things, he's thrown for a ton of yards. So, yeah, kid looked good before he got hurt. He looked good for a series. The first drive was a 3-and-out. Second drive, he looked good. Yeah, he did look good. The one long pass was a busted coverage, but he got us down there, and yeah, they got points off of it, and he got concussed. But to me, it's not enough to say, yes, Jaron Hall should be the starter the last 2 games of the year. I'm leaving that up to Kevin O'Connell to make that decision. Again, we brought Kevin O'Connell in here because he was supposed to be this quarterback guru who was going to be able to develop our next quarterback and to get the most out of Kirk Cousins. Now, he got the most out of Kirk Cousins I think anybody was going to be able to get out of him. So I still trust KOC working with the quarterbacks, and if he doesn't think Hall is ready, or he doesn't get, he thinks Mullens gives us a better chance to win, then I'm not going to argue with him on that one. What do we have to lose? We talked about this earlier too. There's a lot of different things going in there. Really, it probably doesn't matter who we start. Far as it goes, Josh Dobbs isn't going to be on this team next year. Mullens is under contract, but so he's probably here at least in preseason. I don't know if he's there beyond that, but at this point in time, I don't see the point in starting Hall just for some of this, but we'll see what we should know by tomorrow. It kind of sounds like that they would make a decision to, on Wednesday, hopefully. They'll have to because the game is on Sunday, but we'll find out, I guess, tomorrow. But one more excuse to celebrate and party on a Sunday. That is absolutely true, Doc. Never witnessed as many frustrating games in one season as this year. Agree with that 110%, Brian. It has been so absolutely frustrating. us as Vikings fans, we should be used to heartbreak and frustration, but it doesn't make it any easier when it happens. So it's been a tough season. I mean, it has. Do you think we re-sign Cousins? I think there's an increasingly good possibility that happens. We'll know within a couple of months. They're going to have that done by the second week of March, if he's going to stay or not. So we'll see. We'll see what happens when we get to that. We'll get in more to the what ifs and what's going to happen in the quarterback situation once the Vikings season is over and we kind of know where we're going to be picking. Then we'll start, draft breakdowns and some of that other stuff. But right now the season is still going, so there is still opportunity out there. If we win the last two, it's a 90-some% possibility that we make it into the playoffs, depending upon if Seattle or the Rams do something funky. But with that, we've been going about 45 minutes here, a little bit more than that. So last call for any questions, comments, or vents in the comments section there from any of you guys. And then I think we'll call her a night here shortly. So if nothing else, again, want to thank everybody for joining tonight. I love these live shows. It's fun. It's therapeutic. It's hope the weather turns. Yeah, that the ice storm was supposed to be over by 6. Now they moved it out to midnight again. So it was best to stay in town tonight and not have to make the jaunt home and then back again. But sounds like it's supposed to get better there tomorrow. Happy New Year to you too, Brian, and to all you other guys out there. Ben, thanks. Thanks, Dave. Thanks, Ant. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Would be remiss not to give a shout out to the Filipino fan club again. Noe, BB, Jen, all you guys, Wilma, all you guys halfway around the world watching. And Ryno needs longer hair. He's got to be cold. Nah, I don't like long hair, Doc. It annoys me when my hair gets too long, so I just keep it like this. But anyway, guys, thank you again for watching. Programming note, there will not be a Brunswick's Best tomorrow night. Lance has got some family stuff going on, so we'll hopefully be back next week for number 30 on that. But we will have a regular studio show on Friday night, previewing the New Year's Eve matchup against the Green Bay Packers on Sunday Night Football. So make sure you join us Friday at 6 p.m. for that. And then, of course, next Monday again, New Year's Day, we will have Ryno's Rants to break down whatever happens in the Green Bay game. So make sure you join me again next week for that. And with that, you guys have a great rest of your night. Skol Vikings. Let's make the most out of what's left of the season. And we'll see you guys later on in the week. Have a good one.